For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. Sicily, Cacti, Gorgons, and smartphones. An engaging and worthy travelogue by my friend Lyubo. Lyubomir Georgiev holds a Ph.D. in history and is a chief expert at the Central State Archives. We met in Catania at an art exhibition. Ah, my friend, for heaven's sake, be amazed for just a moment. We are traveling, you and I, through renowned Italia, through that noble land of crowned poets, of immortal arts, of grand old skeletons. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza dominated the international news during the long winter nights of the leap year 2024. However, the 3-day holidays around March 3rd brought a breath of fresh air and served as a cheerful prelude to our journey to the triangular island of Sicily. During the break, I had time to calmly pack my suitcase and explore the excellent National Geographic Guide to Italy, kindly lent to me by my colleague Dancho. Round trip tickets to Catania with Ryanair cost about 80 BGN per person. The flight departed at a convenient late morning hour from Terminal 2, which is directly accessible by metro. The evening before our flight, I was hit with a sore throat. I sucked on 3 lozenges throughout the night, tossing and turning in bed, torn between going and canceling. I imagined being stopped at the airport due to a fever, forced to rely on my travel insurance. March 5, at the crack of dawn, Mariana launched into the final travel preparations with her usual confidence and optimism. Her energy was contagious. Despite forecasts for rain, the skies were clear, perfect flying weather. At Terminal 2, I met the brand new ChatGPT via my smartphone. This Bulgarian-made AI gave me decent answers about who betrayed Levski and what sights to expect from the plane. I actually preferred ChatGPT to Google's Gemini. I was tempted to edit this very travelogue with AI help, but my traditionalism, self-confidence, and humanism prevailed. We traveled with our international passports and, thanks to that, bypassed the queues at passport control. A fully automated check let us through without even meeting a border guard. The Ryanair jet, decorated with a golden Irish harp, quickly lifted us above the clouds. Up there, the beauty was pure, but the views soon became monotonous. So, without regrets about missing the scenery, I began reading the National Archives Act on my phone, so I was preparing for a civil servant exam. But soon, as we flew over the Mediterranean coast, the clouds parted and my legal reading was postponed. Wind turbines lined the earth beneath us in long rows. The flight felt short and even fun. I couldn't help but think how tense and grim it must have been for American crews flying B-17s out of Sicily in 1943, dodging enemy fighters and flak to bomb targets in Bulgaria and Romania. From Catania Airport, we took a direct bus to Taormina, packed with young Polish women. The highway twisted between the dove, gray sea and a cloud-shrouded Mount Etna. The landscape reminded me of the mists over Corfu one sane, George's day nearly 20 years ago. It's no wonder that in antiquity, Sicily was a vital part of Magna Graecia. It was gently drizzling when we reached steep Taormina, so high above sea level that there's even a lift connecting it to the beach. In this picturesque town, I first noticed the Triskelion sickles or trinacria, a three-legged symbol with a Gorgon's head in the center. Common in Sicilian home decor, it also features on the island's flag, symbolizing its triangular shape. Gorgon heads are also frequent in Sicilian archaeological museums. It seems the locals still trust in their ancient power to ward off evil. From a gas station where diesel cost 1.89, we started the ascent toward the Saracen castle, built during the 10th, 11th centuries, when Sicily was under Arab rule. We climbed the well-maintained Via Crucis, Way of the Cross, flanked by copper bas-reliefs depicting the Passion of Christ. The path offered spectacular views of the ancient theater, the town, the sea, and the volcano Etna. We were struck by the abundance of cacti laden with brightly colored fruit. These vitamin C rich fruits are edible raw, but due to the fine spines on their skins, they must be carefully peeled before handling. A quick internet check confirmed that the prickly pear, also known as a puncha, was introduced to Europe after the discovery of the Americas. March 6, the home hostel Taormina offered us excellent hospitality. Our first Sicilian morning began with sunshine, cooing doves, and birdsong. From a 19th century pharmacy, I bought lozenges to fight off a lingering cough. The pharmacy stood right behind a fountain with a statue of a crowned centaurus, the symbol of the town. Taormina's name comes from the word Taurus, bull. Since the town is perched on the twin-peaked Mount Toro Tui, we took photos with the snow-capped Mount Etna towering 357 meters above the azure Ionian Sea. Interestingly, in the afternoons, even on sunny days, Etna would wrap itself in clouds. Mariana thoroughly explored the famed Greek theater of Taormina, which once seated 10,000 spectators in antiquity. I found the free visits to the Odeon, a small Roman theater, the Naumachia cistern area, likely used for staging naval battles, Don Bosco's church, and the lush public garden to be quite sufficient. The Moorish head flower pots adorning Sicilian homes are absolutely charming in both shape and color. According to legend, a dashing Saracen fell in love with a local beauty. Their passion burned hot, but when the man revealed he had to return to his wife and children, the woman cut his throat and turned his skull into a flower pot. The scent of flowers in the gruesome vase made her neighbors envious, and they began crafting similar ceramic heads. Since then, such pots always come in pairs, male and female. We thoroughly enjoyed Sicily's delicious specialty, arancini da 3. That afternoon we traveled to Catania and stayed in a spacious palazzo on a palm-lined square named after Giovanni Falcone, the anti-mafia prosecutor assassinated in 1992. The man who welcomed us spoke only Italian, but had a smartphone, and Google Translate handled our entire conversation. My first impressions of Sicily's second largest city were of tall buildings, narrow and dirty sidewalks, and bold young beggar girls. March 7, in the morning, we plunged into the bustling, aromatic fish market of Catania, located near the cathedral and the statue of an elephant. The city's talisman, the regional archive, is housed in a historic palazzo with an inner courtyard in the city center. I was only allowed to take a photo in front of the building after I insisted I was a fellow archivist. The financial police headquarters is near the train station, its gate flanked by two ornate columns, distant echoes of Trajan's column. Relief scenes depict law enforcers in action, such as a policeman with a bayonet fighting a smuggler with a dagger. I was sternly prohibited from photographing there. It seems that being a civil servant in Sicily is no carefree job. In Sicily, they don't like Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, they don't like any witnesses. As the old joke goes, Mariana quickly figured out the combination of bus and train offered by Italian railways to get us to Palermo. As we moved away from snowy Etna, sharp peaked hills, orange and olive groves, and neat rows of cacti filled the landscape. Green pastures were dotted with grazing sheep. Eventually, the massive walls of unassailable Enna came into view, a fortress known as the Navel of Sicily. During the long journey, I typed up this journal on my phone, far more convenient than scribbling on paper, and later struggling to decipher my own handwriting. Palermo looked much wealthier than Catania. The accommodations we chose through Booking.com became increasingly luxurious. Our lodgings in the Sicilian capital, on the central Via Roma, were no exception. The cozy apartment Del Palm boasted not only a superb location, but also an excellent bathroom. However, retrieving the keys required navigating a sequence of safes and codes. March 8, we bought day passes for Palermo's public transport from a tobacco and newspaper stand, then caught bus 389 near the Norman Palace up to the steep district of Monreale. The cathedral there houses 13th century golden mosaics, blending Norman and Arabic motifs. The bronze doors, adorned with biblical reliefs, bear the signature of Bonanis, who also cast the doors of Pisa's cathedral. The Monreale doors are dated to 1186, the same year the brothers Azan and Peter led the Bulgarian uprising against Byzantium. Byzantine craftsmen painted the cathedral's masterpiece, an image of Christ Pantocrator. The golden splendor inside the cathedral stands in stark contrast to the narrow, steep alleys outside. Entry into churches in Italy is thankfully free, but if you want to climb the bell tower or descend into the crypt, you'll pay a fair bit. For International Women's Day, Mariana received a discounted ticket. On March 8, the streets of Sicily, too, were filled with flower vendors. The Baroque cathedral in central Palermo is just as magnificent. Its opulence, in part, was the result of competition between the ruler of Monreale and the bishop of Palermo, a far better way for states to compete than with weapons. Inside, I was deeply moved by the modern stone sarcophagus of Father Giuseppe Puglisi, executed by the Mafia in 1993 for preaching against them. The Catholic Church has recognized him as blessed for his martyrdom. Our next destination was a true kingdom of the dead. The Capuchin catacombs in a poor Palermo neighborhood. More than 8,000 mummified remains rest there. Monks, nobles, virgins, families, professionals. The mummy of 2-year-old Rosalia seemed to whisper to us, "Don't be too frugal or restrained. Enjoy life while it lasts." The 25 entrance fee was reasonable, the air inside clean, the atmosphere more somber than scary. That evening we strolled along the coastal promenade with singing fountains behind an old fortress. Google Maps found us a cozy little restaurant hidden in a tangle of narrow streets. We dined on delicious Italian food, washed down with vino della casa, house wine. March 9 that morning, I figured out how to use the espresso machine at Del Palme. Every apartment had coffee and a machine, but each time it was a different model. Walking along lively Via Maqueda, we reached the old church of Saint Nympha. Italians write the word nymph this way. We crossed Palermo's famed intersection, Quattro Canti, 4 corners. I eagerly photographed the nude marble statues of the Fountain of Shame, di Fuori. Then we paused at the Orthodox Church of the Admiral, a blend of Byzantine and Saracen architecture. Palermo's archaeological museum is housed in a former monastery. Its collection, however, felt rather modest for a capital, even if only a regional one. Through mountain passes over 650 meters high, an intercity bus took us to Syracuse. I spotted a stork and said my quiet farewell. March 10. We settled near the eastern coast of Ortigia, a small island that is actually the historic center of Syracuse. The sea on its eastern side sounded and smelled like the surf in Sozopol, unlike the calm, tamed waters of the ports in Catania and Palermo. All of Ortigia is tightly paved with stone slabs from building to building. We began our Sunday with a liturgy at the island's cathedral, impressive for its silver statue of Saint Lucia and the massive columns from the ancient temple of Athena embedded in the walls, remnants of the temple that once stood on the same site. We toured the rationally planned bastions of the seaside fort Castello Manius. Its name, contrary to my first impression, does not mean Castle of the Maniacs, but honors the Byzantine general George Maniacs, who reclaimed Syracuse from the Saracens in 1040. This Sunday happened to be museum day, so entry to Castello Manius was free. To take further advantage of the free access, we hurried to the excellent Archaeological Museum of Syracuse, rich in red, figure ancient Greek pottery, an extensive series of ceramic figurines of the deity Ptah, Neolithic vessels, Gorgon heads, and all sorts of artifacts from pre-Christian times. After the intense cultural program and much rushing around, I treated myself to a Sunday afternoon of siesta, arancini, and souvenir shopping. March 11, as I photographed the sunrise over the choppy sea, I marked a sort of July morning in March. After checking out of our accommodation, we made a final farewell tour of Ortigia, backpacks and all. We crossed the narrow land strip and headed toward the snowy peak of Mount Etna, bound for the modernist Cathedral of Syracuse, the Madonna of the Tears, Madonna della Crime. This huge Catholic temple boldly pierces the sky, with concrete elements reminiscent of the massiveness of the National Palace of Culture or the Pleven Panorama. Its shape somewhat resembles a circus dome. This unusual cathedral was consecrated by the Pope, and believers still pray there. When we entered, a woman was reading from the pulpit, standing on the mirrored floor at the center of the reinforced concrete structure. I felt as if my reflection pulled me upward through the towering pointed ceiling into the heavens. The thorn-crowned cross above the Madonna of the Tears slightly resembled an antenna. I'm glad I visited this free attraction. Not far from the Madonna of the Tears lies the Neapolis Archaeological Park. There stands the altar for hecatombs built by the tyrant Hiron II, which impressed me mainly with its sheer size. It was the largest in antiquity. In the Greek theater, we had the luck of being photographed by a professional director from Japan. I found the Roman amphitheater interesting because of a shaft in its center, likely used for stage machinery. The stone quarry with its huge artificial caves, one of which, thanks to its remarkable acoustics, is called the Ur of Dionysius, named after the tyrant of Syracuse, was my favorite part, especially because of the groves of lemons and oranges growing between the rocks. The Neapolis Archaeological Park features prominently in the 2023 film Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. However, I found the park unnecessarily expensive, especially considering how limited the access to most of the landmarks was. Overall, Syracuse was my favorite place of all those I visited in Sicily. That evening in Catania, we took a walk down the lively Via Etnea, heading straight toward the volcano. It reminded me of Vitosha Boulevard in Sofia. We admired the Baroque cathedral and then had our farewell Sicilian dinner at the fish market. Fresh seafood, exotically prepared with eggplants and oranges. March 12, Piazza Giovanni Falcone is close to the train station. A short train ride took us to Catania's sunlit airport, with the snow-capped Mount Etna shimmering in the distance. Sofia greeted us with chill and rain, but also freshly washed streets and blooming spring trees, promising the arrival of spring.